Diablo 4, finally good. Is it even possible? Let's find out.
Okay, so a bunch of people have asked me about the rework for the PTR, the itemization changes, etc. And sort of, is it enough? Is Diablo 4 great now? Is it a 10 out of 10 and all these types of questions? And so I'm going to kind of break down my feeling on what I actually think.
The quick answer is it's enough for now, but these item changes are, in my opinion, way too close to Diablo 3, which means that there is probably not a lot of future in this game.
About this. Now, in the previous video, I talked about and showed what the changes actually are and gave you a brief, like 2-minute synopsis if it was a thumb up or thumb down. But for me, it really feels like this. It feels like the game has launched now in a state with the PTR where it feels like a 1.0, or the game is effectively out of beta. Things like the minions, for instance, actually now do something. You just take a look at this.
They don't do something. They're completely busted and overpowered, obviously. Blizzard doesn't do middle of the road. Blizzard does horrible or overpowered. And minions were horrible. So now they honestly and obviously can only be overpowered.
The minions inherit all of your stats, so now they actually DPS like crazy, and they're just significantly better, even if I don't help them at all. Just significantly more aggressive and better than they used to be prior to any of these changes, and that is significant for anyone that actually likes the summoner style of gameplay. But this is just one such example of times that I would go into Diablo 4 before and be unimpressed or uninspired with some of the gameplay that I had experienced. Necromancer minions being one of these common things we've seen since the beginning of the game. And so that theme of, oh, I didn't like it what it was before, and now it is what it should have been, seems to be a common reoccurring theme for me. Another example of this would be the Helltides. The Helltides now basically have what I would consider probably the highest density in the game once you get this threat meter going. They've taken a lot of the mechanics from the other seasons and thrown them into here. But just the amount of mobs themselves, like the actual, like I say, the density of the mobs feels like now what you would think a Blood Tide actually should have been. Just a whole bunch of minions overrunning an area. The XP is good, the farming's good. So it's better, way better. And Helltide was usually like my least favorite part of the game. Now it's one of the better parts. So while I was live streaming, I just finished a 100...
The Helltide is definitely a huge win, though. There is no question about it. Helltide is a positive change. Now, the fact that you still still need to pick up Cinders, I don't know what's that about, Blizzard? You bunch of idiots. But, you know, hopefully one day Blizzard will figure it out. Picking up items that should be automatically picked up is fucking stupid and should be removed from the game and automatically picked up. You bunch of mouth breathers.
In 51 hours straight live stream, right? That's why I have a bed in the background and everything. We did our first subathon this stream. While we...
Hey, no wonder he looks a little bit tired.
We're doing that. I did a lot of testing this PTR, and one of the common questions I was always getting was, well, what's the point of items, and what's the point of, you know, the core being fixed if there's still no in-game, etc. And one of the analogies or metaphors that I would have to kind of come back to is, well, let's say you were overweight. And what you wanted to do was be a shredded bodybuilder. Like, the very first thing you're going to do is reduce your weight. And I kind of feel like that's what they were doing with this here. Like, you can't really make the in-game and like have all of these other things that are built upon your pre-game, like actually having items and what your character's power structure is. They're obviously going to have to rebalance everything, etc. So I think getting the itemization in the core of your character correct is the first step. You gotta lose the weight.
I have been saying that so long. The first step is to actually make all skills viable. Pretty much blatantly just place a bunch of legendary aspects by default on some skills so they're even better and more basically viable, and then we can move on from there. Because what's the point of adding an item that you know you can make a build around if, you know, the ability is shit without the item, you know? I want everything to be viable. And this is, I feel, a huge problem. This is why I hate the itemization changes. Yes, they're gonna be better. I'm gonna have fun for a week or two. You're gonna have fun for a week or two, or however long you play. But after that, what next? You see, PoE is winning hard because PoE has one simple truth behind it. They can make 5 bad leagues in a row, but the base game is gonna be good enough so people keep playing. It has all the necessary complexity, it has everything to keep people occupied forever. Diablo 4 doesn't have it. It didn't have it, and now with the item rework, it has even less of it. Because it's people are gonna catch on that this is like you being treated like a safety helmet user child in school, essentially, real quickly, when they figure out that, wait a minute, every single stat on my items is literally just the equivalent of plus 10 to 40 or whatever damage. Because your base stat is damage that you get on items, then you have base damage on items that you get on items, then you have base damage for skills that you use to get on items, and cooldown, and attack speed. All of these things are bland and beyond simple. As I stated multiple times, the moment Diablo 4 becomes Diablo 3, I'm just never gonna log back in. Diablo 3 was an absolutely abject failure at absolutely every level conceivable. And the more things they do that make Diablo 4 look like Diablo 3 is bad. I already called this, by the way, a long time ago, like a couple of months ago, that that everything that they're slowly doing is kind of just pushing in the direction of Diablo 3. And I said the itemization is gonna be Diablo 3, and I was right, it is. And at this rate, again, pretty much the only thing that's left is the Horadric Cube. Because we got the whatever portals phase, what are the dungeons called in Diablo 3, that the stone things, whatever. We got those, we got the itemization from Diablo 3. Now we're just waiting for the Horadric Cube to be added, essentially.
Then you can even see a 6-pack once you acquire one. So I think that was basically what's happening here. They get the itemization right. They added a couple new in-game things like the Greater Rift farming set. I think Greater Rifts will be divisive. I think some people will like them because there's no objectives. You just get into the rifts. I even forget what they call them, the pit, okay? But it's basically Greater Rifts.
Greater Rifts are good. Also, again, I already made my prediction for what's going to happen with Greater Rifts. Greater Rifts are essentially infinity. They can stretch on until infinity. AKA, they're going to stretch on to the point where it's Diablo 3. Where it's a basic white mob, the weakest of the weak, and you need to, hit it with all your cooldowns to kill it. That's where we're going for with the Greater Rifts. And that is going to be when the game dies yet again. When that is achieved. Because Paragon levels, we're this close, by the way, to Paragon levels. Because the Greater Rifts already exist. If the Greater Rifts in form of the pit can go infinite, people are always want to reach infinite. This is what we do as humans. If we see that we can reach something, that it's possible to get, we try to achieve it. And people are going to just slowly become more and more pissed over time that they cannot progress in the Greater Rifts because there is no infinity progression system. And that's where they're going to add Paragon back into the game in some way, shape, or form for infinity power-ups. Yay!
You get into it, you kill things, you go to the next level, you kill things very quick, very efficient, straight to the boss. It's just fast, fun, arcade style gameplay. You just blow through things. So some people are going to like that. Some people are going to see it as uninspired and directly from D3. And both of these takes would basically be correct at this point. But I don't really think we're going to see much of like ultra in-game mechanics.
And again, the problem with all of these changes is they are good because, well, previously everything was a shit show, right? So all of these changes are welcomed. One, because we didn't have anything previously. Like, the crafting system's not really even crafting, honestly. But it's better because we didn't have any crafting before. So, everyone likes the changes, but what kind of future can you make from these changes? I think there is no future from these changes. Because when you dumb down the game to the absolute limit, aka Diablo 3, yeah, you can't exactly move up from it.
Like seasonal based in-game mechanics until we had this itemization core correct. We have the new level 200 uber bosses, etc., which is, you can probably argue, new in-game, but they're kind of like the other bosses, but just stronger, right? So I think now that we have what is, in my opinion, a much better core, they should be able to build upon that core going forward. So if you're wondering that yourself, like, okay, well, the items are there, but is the rest of the game? Well, the rest of the game is sort of what the rest of the game was. But the itemization itself and the building of your character is what it should have been. There is one other change that I don't think is making the rounds in terms of how large I believe it actually is. And I could be wrong about this, but this is just something I'm noticing, which is, okay, so you have these items right here. These are just the base items that I start with. But every now and then, you're going to get these greater affixes. And items are now tradable. The base items are tradable. And uniques are tradable as well, just not the uber uniques, right? So because of that, and because of the fact that greater affixes are fairly rare, but you can get multiple of these. Like you can get a unique that has all 4 as greater affixes, for instance. This sort of revitalizes the trading economy and makes it where acquiring these greater affixes gives you tremendous value of each one of these items. And uniques and legendaries are tradable now. Now, rares are basically worthless other than, crafting materials. You're going to need them and salvage them for crafting materials, etc. But the legendary and uniques now will probably have an economy based around them. And because of the way that there's now these uber bosses like level 200 ones, etc., and the materials are probably even more important for that regard, because as you kill the new ubers, you're getting the resplendent sparks from killing them that will also give...
Look at this fucking item, by the way. Just look at the greatness of this item. So we have maximum life. Then we have damage. Then we have Tides of Blood, which is effectively just to get more damage. And then we have 30% more damage? Again! This is sad. This is sad.
Give you the ability to craft an uber unique, which is non-tradable, for instance. You sort of have reasons to trade, sell things in order to acquire materials, etc. So I think this is going to have impact on the long term of trading in a very healthy way for people that like that side of the game. Because I remember some of the comments we were seeing in the beginning of Diablo 4 was that trading's dead, it's a open world but a single player game. Like some of these sort of meme comments that were like little, correct, a little harsh but correct, basically. The impact that I think we're having on opening up the legendary and uniques, because back in the day when we were saying they'd show this rework, etc., one of the questions I had asked was, are these going to be tradable? And it was like, no, this isn't tradable, etc. But it looks like they're actually opening that up, which is significant in my opinion for people that like to interact with them.
I like the idea that he's hinting at here, but I don't think it's gonna succeed because, well, if you don't make trading a core aspect of your game, how do you implement it later? For example, how is trading gonna work? Gold? I mean, probably, but gold's such a cheap material nowadays, it's just crazy. But okay, so there's no in-game trading that's facilitated by Blizzard. There's gold, and that's pretty much it. But gold is effectively a completely redundant resource in the game. So, and trading item for item would be way too tedious. So, what do we do?
Other players. So that's just one wave impact we're going to see from this earthquake here. TLDR is trading's better. I also quite like the masterworking, and because the masterworking doesn't take a crazy amount of the materials from the pit, and the pit actually is decently generous in terms of how many they give you as you go through it, even at the lower levels, I think the masterworking isn't going to be a frustrating farming part of the game, for instance, like we see with Hell Tides. The only part that I could be wrong about for this is the veiled crystals that you get from salvaging rare equipment, for instance. Could be slightly annoying because you're not really getting rare equipment as much, as the rares don't really have as much.
Almost sneezed.
Much of an impact. Now, I could salvage all materials, and I'll do this just here for the video real fast. So if I go here and I salvage all my materials, okay, destroy all my materials. Well, that's all my legendaries, etc., but there's no veiled crystals. But when you actually look at veiled crystals in order to farm them, it says from rare or better equipment. So, the getting veiled crystals seem to be fairly rare. So there's still a use for rare items, even if it's just for salvage material to buff up your legendary items. Now, if I was forced to have a complaint still about the game, I would say that I don't necessarily enjoy farming the boss materials. However, that being said, if I think their goal is, no, we want you to farm these boss materials, they just are trying to make it their job to make sure it's more enjoyable to acquire the materials in order to actually farm the bosses. This is why I'm noticing you kill goblins, etc. You're getting Livian Steel. On the occasion, you'll kill like an elite mob and you'll drop a boss material, etc. I'm noticing like the world bosses, gain Distilled Fear, Exquisite Blood, all these things. So it does factually seem like I'm getting more of the boss materials, and during the leveling process, I'm sure I can start acquiring some of these as I pursue to level 100, so that by time...
Also, a question. So, with Helltide now being doable from level 5, is there ever a point to just not go to Helltide constantly at level 5? It seems like the place to be, boys, so.
I'm at level 100. I probably have enough for maybe like one boss rotation with a couple of these bosses, etc. Plus, with trade, maybe being a little bit more revitalized in the economy, that will give us more of a focus on that for trade, as well as interacting with other players, so you can get in those rotations for those boss farms, etc. You have one set, you get 3 other people who have the one set. Now you can kill the boss 4 times, for instance. I think we're going to see a lot more of the types of players who just farmed it themselves now interacting with more players, as there is more of a reason to, both through trade, they'll get used to that, and then start doing it with boss farming groups, etc. Overall, I'm actually pretty positive about what I've seen from the PTR. I said this in the previous video. I like it quite a lot.
I'm also technically positive, even if it may not seem like it, but I'm again, my positivity is probably gonna run out after a week or 2 of playing when the season finally comes out. And by the way, word on the street is the new season is gonna be Angels vs Demons, because everyone really loves angels in Diablo 2 for some reason. Yeah, I fucking don't know about you, but angels are kind of lame.
My impression of it is, this is basically what the launch of the game should have...
Inarius was a Giga Chad, though. Diablo 3 did one thing, and yeah, Inarius, when he was breaking the barricades, that was cool.
Probably been, and now they're coming back from the deficit and building upon it, and we'll have to see how the Season 4 mechanics, etc., interact with it. I wonder if they have a lot more planned for Season 4, or if the stuff on PTR we're seeing is basically the entirety of Season 4. I don't know. I don't know if any of us really know at this point. So
no, it's probably not the entirety of Season 4. Well, anyway, that was our boy, DM, Skittles, Dark Microtransaction. Yeah, good stuff. Well, let's hope, I guess. Anyway, this was Sid saying thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.